Alaikum warahmatullah, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We receive a lot of questions and actually complaints from sisters complaining about domestic abuse, things that can be unbearable sometimes. And we would like to know, what does Islam say about this type of behavior in a family setting?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ba'd. Domestic abuse is a global problem, if I can say that. It's not restricted to one culture. It's not restricted to one generation. Something you will find among people from different background, different ethnicity, different age group, different religious background as well. So that's why you will find a lot of research done about domestic abuse and violence. And even there is a whole entire month was dedicated in America to create an awareness about domestic abuse, because the numbers of women and men as well who are abused are just increasing, especially after coming out of COVID and the isolations and forcing people to be confined in one place. And so many problems during that time, and still the impact of it, unfortunately, is something that we're dealing with. But with this being said, I want to say also, it looks like this is an issue that it is so common that women are most of the time are the target of domestic abuse, the wife and the children as well. And because of this, you will see that in Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam emphasis on the importance of looking after the rights of the weak one and the home. And he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, أُحَرِّجُ عَلَيْكُمْ حَقَّ الضَّعِفَيْنِ الْمَرْأَةَ وَالْيَتِيمِ. I give you no excuse. There is no room for excuse, or forgiveness in the day of judgment when it comes to the rights of those who the weak one. He said, women and orphan. Not because they are weak no, because many times they don't have the strength, the physical strength to fight back. They don't have the strength, the financial strength to be independent. They don't have the strength and the support of this community and the society. And many times through history, they don't have the strength of the law to back them up. So through history, really a lot of abuse happened to women. And the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said upon his death, right before he died, قال أوصيكم الصلاة الصلاة. He called sallallahu upon people to take care of women, take care of the salah, take care of women, take care of the servants and the maids and the slaves that you have. Don't abuse them, in another word. Don't take advantage of you being, in a position of power and to abuse them and not to give them their rights. In Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, one day, he said, لَقَدْ طَافَ عَلَى آلِ مُحَمَّدٍ. Today, my family received so many complaints from multiple women that they were abused by men, physically. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was very upset. قال هؤلاء ليسوا بخياركم. It's not the best of men. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, the best among you, the best to their family. And I'm the best to my family. And Aisha radiallahu anha said, he never hit a woman with his hand, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He was the most respectful. And I want to say, the moment you lay hand on your wife, or you lay hand on your husband, and it became physical like that, there is an amount of damage that it is very hard to be reconciliated.
Irreparable. Yes.
Yeah, you can't put it together again. In many cases, exceptions are exceptions. Okay, and a lot of people think that there is justification for this in the religion. There is no justification for abuse in the religion. There is no justification for violence and abuse in religion.
That's very true.
Whatever you are twisting from evidence or related to some evidence that you might come across are misinterpreted, misused, misunderstood. Okay? So, for example,
exactly,
when even the Quran, when he talked about a specific case which is in the shoes, most of domestic violence has not to do with the shoes. It's just an anger, frustration. And even in this, the Quran never give an order in the sense that you must do this option, which is the third options in the case of the shoes, which is
what is the
striking.
shoes exactly? So
and the shoes, it means when a woman, for example, cheat, or the woman abuse, or her husband, or
becomes rebellious and
rebellious, and what that literally that word means, like leaving. I'm not gonna be like listening to you or obeying you or do whatever I want. I'm just completely dismissing the husband. Okay, in this case, the person given admonition, maybe abandon them.
Seek counseling, seek reconciliation. Right.
Abandon them in bed, And the Quran spoke about the issue of udribuhun, strike them. But because this can be easily misunderstood, that strike means hit or beat, like some people translate it, which is not correct. Ibn Abbas and others made sure that this is explained well. He said it's like when you take the miswak, which is like the toothbrush. They call it green toothbrush.
It's like less than 6 inches.
And you basically hit her with it, which is not a hit, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's like more of
a symbolic thing of showing rejection.
Yes.
Or he said you take
it's like this.
Or he said he took basically the end of his scarf, and he said, or you hit her like with the scarf. That's not a hit. It's not a.
It's more of a moral.
It's a symbolic things of physical rejection.
Yes.
And you know what? That's what. In other words, you deserve to be, physically punished. But we don't do that in Islam. But you doing things can lead to that. It's like somebody committing a crime, but you're not allowed to do that. That's how they explain what that word means. Okay? And if you look at the Prophet ﷺ, the one who applied the Quran, the one who, he never gave that open door, permissions, blank statement. And also, this is not an order. This is an option to be used in the third level if you think it works. But if you think it doesn't work, if you think it is not, there's more harm in it, you're not allowed to use it. It's like if you don't sleep, abandon her in bed. But this will lead to haram. You're not allowed to use that as a method. The same thing. So this is not just an open invitation for people to, so that's a misuse. Another time they use evidence which is not correct. Like there is a weak hadith. It's not correct. A narration. علق الصوت حيث يراه أهل البيت فإنه آدب لهم. Hang the whip in the middle. I saw this in somebody's house once. He had a whip on the, on the wall, and it says the Prophet ﷺ hang it in the middle of the house so people behave well. What is this? First of all, this hadith is weak, is not correct. I saw once, maybe it's a joke. I found it as a joke, but if somebody uses it in another way, that's not right. Spanker. The spanker?
Yeah.
It's like a wood thing, and it's called attitude adjuster. So for the kids, but you may joke, but if that's really what it is, you use that on your kids, your family, that's not allowed. That's not how the behavior of the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the way that Islam wants us to be. So, Islam said, "Ma nuzi'a ar-rifqu min shay'in illa shana." Anytime there is no gentleness, this thing this relationship is bad, is doomed. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال بل لا يرحم لا يرحم ارحموا من في الأرض يرحمكم من في السماء. Be merciful with the people on earth, so Allah will be merciful with you. And if you have no mercy to people, there is no mercy for you. And we have to remember that. When I hear a situation where Women are beaten up. Women are, and we had our share here in Houston. You remember a couple of years back when we had somebody came and he killed his wife, his daughter, 6 years old, and his mother-in-law.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
And that was a result of a domestic violence. And we're not, I mean, we saw this in the society at large, happening multiple times in Houston, and happening, it struck the heart of our community. So domestic violence is terrible, you know, especially the impact of it on children. And it's a cycle of doom. Your children pick this up, grow like this, and they start abuse. And I want to say also there is abuse for men from women. And abuse can get in many different forms. There is an emotional abuse. There is a financial abuse.
Yeah.
Somebody like financially abuse his wife, financially abuse her, you know, her husband, put her in debt. That's an abuse. But mainly for women, you prevent her from studying, prevent her from working, so she will be always broke, she'll always be needing you, and you don't give her money. Okay, that's fine, but if she doesn't work, she doesn't have but you giving her money. No. Some of them like very tight, like you have to submit receipt or have to submit request before I give you money to buy anything. That's not how it works and it's supposed to work. Also sometimes an abuse when it comes to mental and emotional abuse.
Yeah.
You know, always putting her down, always making fun of her.
She's never good enough.
Yeah. Sheikh, I remember an incident of somebody born, raised in Western country. Not born, raised in some other country. No, in this, in our part of the world, in this part of civilization, you'd think he's civilized. He graduated from one of the top universities. And I was shocked that he was telling me, when I look into the case, for example, his wife's not allowed to eat while he's eating. She has to wait until he finish. And they don't have kids or anything. She has to wait until to finish. You know, she sits on the floor most of the time and he sits on the chair.
Wow.
And I think that's sick. That's a sick person. Mm-hmm. And when they came, I said, sister, you don't need a reconciliation. You need to sue.
You need the reconsideration.
Yeah, you need to sue this guy, you know, in the court and divorce him. That's what you need to do.
No reconciliation, reconsideration completely.
Reconsideration, like that. So, emotional abuse, always putting stress, always putting fear.
You know what
I'm going to marry another one. I'm going to dump you. I'm going to cancel your green card. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. So there is constant emotional abuse, constant sarcasm, constant making fun of the person, constant criticism, constant, like, it's not like, okay, one time or two times, no. That's a systematic way just to break that.
It's the lifestyle.
Yeah. And when you bully and break the person in front of you, khalas, you control them, they're so afraid, so terrified, they cannot move, paralyzed. And that's where basically the abuser fear, like, okay, it's like when you see the animal take their prey and they break them, they don't eat them right away. They just let them suffer in front of them. So he feels like, I'm safe now, it's not going to go anywhere. And that's not right. We're not animals.
You know, what really hurts me sometimes when I see situations like this is that this woman, before she was married, you know, she probably went to college, graduated. She was happy in her family. She was honored by her father. She was, you know, raised well. Her father would say, I want you to marry the best man on earth. We are all fathers, and we want our daughters to be honored, right? And to be taken care of by, you know, responsible, honorable husbands. And now when they go there and they're abused, you know, how the whole thing turned around for her. And then there are certain, you know, true stories about this where my father would have died again if he saw me like this.
But what I would like to say here is this. if you are, also there is a sexual abuse. Also, there is part of sexual abuse. People said, how come in Islam there's sexual abuse? Sexual abuse when some men force their women to have certain sexual relationship, which is haram in Islam, like anal sex. Force her to have sex during her period. And also sometimes where he forces her to do things in sexual relationship she's not comfortable with, she's not capable of. That's abuse, So respect when she says no. And I'm not encouraging women to say no for the sake of no, but you know what? If I can, I can. I am not able, I'm unable. I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that.
Now, a lot of people misunderstand that, and they think, okay, Allah allowed you this woman because, she's yours in a way that you have a healthy relationship with her, but there are certain things.
It's like you are hers too.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I would like to say, if you're in a relationship like this, I know it's hard. I know you think about a million questions. How I'm going to survive financially, blah, 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 all this, my kids. And I just want to tell you that your kids to be raised by a single mom and a single dad in a calm home is a million times better than in a violent house where they see this kind of abuse happening every day in front of them. 100%, I can tell you that. Number two, if you worry about financial, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. And He mentioned this in Surah Al-Talaq. Because sometimes we stay in abused relationship because of financial reasons. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who takes care of people. And I don't want this to be, you have financial rights over your husband. You have financial rights as a husband too. That's not right. You have to be educated. I'm not advocating to take what you don't have rights over, Islamically or legally. But I'm advocating for don't stay in an abused relationship and keep the status quo. Reach out to the masjid, reach out to Imam. And if the Imam keep telling you, oh, everything will be fine, or your family will keep you fine, there's no change, no real change happening from the husband, no real change out of the situation. No, it's not going to be fine. It's going to be only worse. And if it's been 5 years in marriage, don't come to me when it's 35 years in marriage. If you have one kid right now, don't wait until you have 5 kids or 3, 4 kids. Don't wait until you became too old and broken and in certain cases, even physically, she's harmed. Which is all these cases I have seen, unfortunately, in the course of my life. And I want to again say, yes, there's focus on our talk on women, because there may be some focus on women, but also there's abuse for husbands. There is taken advantage for them as well. And there is abuse for children. And that's one of the sad things, Sheikh. Like, kids live in fear, constant fear. That's not right. It's not allowed.
Yeah. But the point that you're advising these women to not to stay in this relationship, which is the right advice, but at the same time, her safety comes first, because you just don't, decide to just leave the relationship while you know that you might not be safe because of the consequences of that. That she really has to calculate her moves very carefully and seek professional advice.
There is an 800 number line for that.
Exactly.
The community are here willing to help, and anywhere you want. And it should be, the community provide that. That's our role collectively. Also have a plan.
Exactly,
if this is going to happen, what I'm going to do. Also, I want you to know that it is okay Islamically to call the police if he is beating you. Mm-hmm. It is okay if you feel you threaten, your children threaten.
Her safety, her life is important.
It is okay to call the police. It's okay to do that. But it's not okay to call the police. Because sometimes also women want to make a case against her husband. Okay? And I remember a case of a brother. She kept instigating him, trying to get him nervous.
Provoking him.
He lose it, and he doesn't know that her friend behind the curtain doing
Is
all this in
taken-
video,
yeah, right.
and 911 was already called. So he was set up for him. That's haram, that's not allowed, that's deceiving. You know, but you know, I'm not going, I know in this, in the case there is multiple like scenarios, but I'm talking about like when a sister called me, she's locked in the bathroom, and I hear the guy like going nuts and crazy and knocking the door. He said, Sheikh, what can I do? I said, call 911. I can call it for you if you give me your address.
Right. Yes.
You know, calling 911 doesn't mean he's by default convicted, but at least to protect yourself until you figure out why. Why? Maybe he needs an anger management course. Maybe he needs to be, call your family, his family if you have. Stay away from the house if you don't feel safe, but don't put your life and your children's life in danger. And again, if it doesn't work, just get divorced and move on with your life. And you too, like, just let it go. You know, you're talking to me about the art of let go. Let it go. Move on.
Exactly.
So you can, your life can be good better. Anyway, we're getting too much time for that. Jazakallah khair.
I think you should wear this, Sheikh, to conclude this question, because I think we consider ourselves that, you know, super dads.
I'm not a super dad, but thank you. Jazakallah
You see
khair.
here,
I wish I am.
what a dad and a super dad. I'm only saying this is because we really care so much about our daughters that we want really the same for them, to be really cared for and taken care of and looked after and not to be abused. And this is really important. You know, I think you answered that question out of being a father as well, not just an imam. So,
Allah Ustad. Jazakallah khair.
wa iyyak, barakallah feek.